Yeah.
Hello to everybody who's come in so far. I see audience is growing slowly but surely. We're going to get started here in just a couple of minutes.
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Sure can. You're coming in loud and clear. Yes.
How you doing, my brother?
All right, and yourself. Glad to have you.
Oh man, thank you for having me, man. Thanks for
No
those
problem. And I see
fans who
some
are coming in.
yeah, I see some familiar faces here that they've talked a lot about Jeremiah over the past few weeks here. All right. Well, we got about let's see here. It's 8:31. I think we can get started here shortly. But again, thanks for everybody who's come in. Just for the conversation, we're kind of in the midway point right now, about a couple of weeks from when Zatima came to a close. And a couple weeks from now, we will have the return of Sistas for season 6B on October 18th on BET. So we're in the double digits with audience members. So I'd like to formally introduce the man of the conversation, Mr. Ameer Baraka. He's been in a number of shows outside of Jeremiah on Zatima, Tales of the Walking Dead. We have American Horror Story. And I mean, the list goes on. It's just one of those things where, regardless of what show you might have seen at some point on television, it's a good chance he may have popped in for an episode or two. So, um, before we get started here, I just have to again say thank you to Ameer, but I feel like we all know you best as Jeremiah.
Yeah, that's cool too.
I mean, it's
I don't
like
have a
they
problem
say
with that.
sometimes when you play a character so well, it just sticks with you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that was it. That was a great character. Hopefully, we're able to peel some more layers off of that character, so people can get an extended view of him, and not just from a one perspective. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Great, because I know that the fans are ready for it. But before we get into the Zatima conversation, which I know everybody wants to talk Zatima, we'll get to that. But I feel like, let's build up to that just a little bit at a time. So if you could tell us about your background, how you got into acting, and then from there we can move on to your just various roles before you landed the spot in Tyler Perry's Zatima.
Well, I actually started acting early on, around high school, and got really involved in theater. I was dyslexic, so I really couldn't compete well in school. So I said, I guess I get into theater, right? And so I was a bit of a clown, and I used to like to imitate people. So I think that's where it all started at, and it just gradually progressed. Reading about Charles Dutton, a guy who's a great mentor of mine,
That's
who
interesting
had
because,
hello.
in terms of those who suffer from that, especially, at younger ages. So could you tell us a bit more about that?
You broke up, so say that again. You had broke up.
Oh, sorry about that. But um, not long ago, we had a discussion about how you're an advocate for dyslexia. And I was asking if you could tell us a bit more about how you're an advocate and helping those who suffer from that as well.
Yeah, well, I go around the country talking about dyslexia because early screening is very important. One in every five people are dyslexic to some degree. And so I was severely dyslexic. And dyslexia is basically a reading disability that does not impact your intelligence at all. Like Richard Branson is dyslexic, Steve Jobs is dyslexic, Tom Cruise. All these people have problems with reading, but they're highly intelligent people. And so what I realized was that, particularly in my community, a lot of black kids that I saw in class with me as well some struggle and was never screened or diagnosed early enough. And so growing up in those projects, if a kid is dyslexia, that kid has a huge probability that he will commit crimes because he's looking for a way out of life opposed to the conventional way, like going to school, going to college, going, getting a job. So dyslexic struggle in those areas. So, I tried to prevent that because what I did was I embarked upon the wrong path in life while my brothers and sisters who were very precocious learners, they read early on, they enjoyed school, they lived in the ghetto just like me, but they were able to read fluently. They enjoyed school. I didn't. And so I dropped out of school early on, got into a life of crime, just done a whole bunch of stuff, man, that really impacted me overall. And once I came out of that, it was my job and my duty now to become beholden to my people and try to help every black boy and girl realize that if you're dyslexic, that does not mean that you're less intelligent. As a matter of fact, it means that you're highly gifted. And so that's why I go around the country and talk about dyslexia.
Okay, well, that's interesting because I love hearing the stories of where people overcame certain challenges in their past, but instead of just moving on from that, they're able to take their experiences and use that to help those to prevent them from following down the same path. Now, when it comes to going around the country and speaking about the situation involving dyslexia and those who have had trouble past, would you say that your experiences from the past have they helped you in terms of molding the different characters you act on in shows and different projects?
Absolutely. Because listen, man, when you see an actor and that actor is a great actor, more than likely that person has been through a lot of emotional trauma because actors, they pull from their past, right? I mean, I am Jeremiah. Jeremiah lives within me. There's no such thing as that I'm acting. That I am Jeremiah. I am completely familiar with Jeremiah and all his nuances as a character. That's who I am. And so when you have these experiences, you just don't discard those experiences. You keep those experiences in your toolbox, and they teach you that in acting school. I mean, all those bad experiences, whether you lost, like I lost a child, right? And so I have that pain. I have that pain still inside of me. So if I ever have a role where I lose a child, I can cry on an instant because it's called something that's called reflective memory. I'm going back. I'm going back to that horrible place, right? And I'm going to unearth those emotions when I lost my child, and it's just going to come through. So I know as an actor when an actor is just saying the lines, or if that actor is pulling from a place. I know I could look at the screen and I can just tell if you are just saying the lines opposed to pulling from your past. And that's the incredible thing about having these experiences, man. So, when you look at Denzel in Training Day, let me tell you something, man. That performance, that was Denzel. That was not there. That guy lives within Denzel. Denzel is not this wholesome human being you want to think he is. I mean, he comes across as that. You know what I mean? But somewhere in
Yeah.
Denzel's life, man, Denzel was a rootless ass guy. You can't act that out. You have to pull. That's coming from a place. So if you listen to most actors and hear their stories, man, these people been through hell, drug addictions, homelessness, alcohol. I mean, all kind of trauma, man. And those people make your great actors and actresses.
I believe it because it adds that authenticity to the performances. And when we talk about your past and experiences, I just can't help but mentally go through some of the episodes of Zatima and think about certain scenes when Jeremiah acted a certain way. But before moving forward in that, I think that a lot of people, when Jeremiah first came onto the scene, I believe towards the middle of season one, and then he had a more, as someone who, I'm assuming you've interacted with a lot of fans who recognize you from the shows at Zatima. Has there been?
Hello? 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 Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, you broke up, man. Can you hear me?
Just a second, folks.
Yeah, repeat that question.
Not sure what happened there. I'm checking to see if there's any sort of issues going on, but if you can hear me loud and clear, let me know,
Yes,
please.
I can
Just a
hear you
hand
loud and clear.
raise or an emoji or something.
I can hear you loud and clear.
You broke up? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. You got me. Okay. I was
Yeah.
asking, when it comes to interacting with fans in real life, have you ever had like discussions with fans either online or, in person? Are there any misconceptions about Jeremiah that you would like to clear up?
Well, a lot of people, I think, particularly in the first go around, people were pretty perturbed by Jeremiah because they wanted to see Fatima and Zach do very well. They wanted Zach to be happy, etc. And I was kind of like disrupting that whole situation. So there was a lot of animosity towards Jeremiah. However, Jeremiah was suffering from a lack of nurturing just as well as Zach was as well, but he displayed it in a different way. Zach had some relationship issues, right? I had emotional issues with communicating, anger issues. So that trauma was transferred in different ways. And so I think the second go around, people really got an understanding of that. But I had to explain that, you know, I had to explain that.
I like that because it reminds me of when DeVal had to, have that conversation with fans to give them insight about, okay, I know people are tripping based off how Zach is acting on Sisters right now, but you know what? Try to look at things from his perspective. Or when it comes to Zatima season 2B, once you look at that, you'll have a better understanding of why Zach acts and reacts to things the way he does. But I think what really added to the character of Jeremiah was seeing the human side of him. Because one point I have always made clear since Zatima first started, well, even before Zatima season 1 started, I know DeVal himself said this in an interview once, that people need to realize Zach and Fatima, despite being a fan favorite, in terms of black love, or one of the best relationship or most favorite relationships on television, kind of like the Martin and Gina of this generation. They don't have like a Disney fairy tale relationship. There are going to be ups and downs, and not everything is going to be picture perfect, because if it was, there really wouldn't be a show. So whenever any sort of obstacle comes up, it's going to be a test for them. And personally, I like the idea of having family members from either side presenting some sort of friction in the relationship, just because it adds something fresher than, let's say, oh, we got Paul for potentially, the new love interest for Fatima, or we have Deja or Connie for Zach. Adding in family members adds more depth to the characters, and most importantly, even more than their friend groups, allows fans to see, oh, okay, well, this is Zach's mom, or this is Fatima's mom or her dad or whoever, and that helped to shape how she is today. So yeah, I could definitely see how Jeremiah went from that one character who was loathed whenever he came on screen, but as especially once we got into the back half of season two, we were able to see more of how his character impacted Zach. And when you talked about like his anger and resentment and sort of like a bitterness, I know we didn't really dig as deep with the character when it comes to this question I have, but do you think Jeremiah may have had some sort of a chip on his shoulder because at such a young age, he was essentially the man of the house, and with that responsibility, that included, taking care of his little brother, and that's kind of like how he got Zach into a life of crime just like him.
Yeah, well, the thing is that, Jeremiah had some self-imposed limitations, and his reprieve in prison, he didn't educate himself, and he had no idea that his brother would be doing so well. And so there is some animosity there, uh, uh, and a bit of jealousy there, because no big brother wants to see the little brother do better than he's doing. I mean, that's normal. I mean, I have that in my life right now. I have a brother that's older brother than me, and I'm doing well than he is. And so I sense that. It's not harsh, but I sense it. I can pick up on it. So that's normal. I mean, it's just a normal thing to experience that. And so that was something that I had to be aware of with the character, and also give that off. And so, and giving that off, it brought friction. It brought some friction, and it was just needed. I mean, that friction was just needed to further understand this family, to further understand who Zach is, and to further understand who Jeremiah is, and who Gladys is. And so I think I hear a lot of people saying, "Well, I want these two couples to be just in love, 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 love." But the thing is, they don't have 5 years or 10 years of love relationship. So after you experience all the lows, then you can appreciate the highs, right? So I mean, it's nothing perfect like that. I mean, some people take 5, 6, 7, 8 years to be in a relationship, then it start to be smooth, right? Nothing just happens overnight. And so people have to really understand that, and look within their own relationships and say, you know what, it took me a while for my husband and I, or for my wife and I, to really start having great times. And so I think that's just normal.
Yeah, and I actually think that was showcased very well during the dinner scene between Zach, Fatima, and her parents when they talked about how they went through trials and tribulations, which, for the most part, really mirrored much of the Zach and Fatima dynamic. And when you talk about 5, 6, 8 years, people need to realize that Zach and Fatima, and I mean, I know the timeline is wonky and it hasn't been officially made canon by Tyler Perry, but based off my findings, I don't even think Zach and Fatima have 5 months together, let alone 5 years. And it just shows that if they're able to make it through, I don't even know if I would say a rough patch. I'd say like more like a landmine field. If they're somehow able to navigate through that, then these two will definitely have a love that's just one for the ages. And I think that's what really helps the characters come alive, not just, with the incredible chemistry and performance that Deval and Crystal put on for Zach and Fatima, respectively, but the way that they have so many different obstacles from their friend groups, from their families. And it just seems that when it comes to fans, whether it's the messages I receive or the comments on the videos or the, messages on Twitter or the responses on Twitter, a lot of fans are just kind of and I've had these moments, just fatigue of the endless drama. So when it
Yeah.
comes to Zach and Fatima, it just feels like there's never a moment where there's peace. Because I remember when these two first got together in season two, and then season three is when they finally made it official. But season two was when they first, interacted, and you know the butterflies were there. Then when we get to season three, I remember there was a time where Zach and Fatima, they wouldn't show up that much in the episodes, at least not together. Because I remember there would be times where fans would be mad on a Wednesday night. It's like we didn't get any Zatima scenes because we saw Zach, on another part of town, and we see Fatima at the law firm. So the Zatima moments, even when it was just those two talking on the phone, fans would lose it. And the best part was those scenes were maybe 3 to 5 minutes long. So fans would just sit through 35 minutes of, what they would call filler just to get to the Zatima stuff. And that's prior to the
Wow.
spinoff even being a thing. So that honeymoon phase they went through, were there some issues? Yes. But I think it mainly came down to Fatima having so many walls. And then you had Zach, who just got out of a toxic 3 year on and off again relationship with Karen. So he saw a good woman in Fatima, and as a result, he wanted to move quick and lock it down. So then we get to a point where Karen becomes a major problem. Hayden ups his ante. And then we get the baby mama stuff. Whether or not Zach is going to hold on to his fortune because of the feds. And then we get to Zatima, fans felt like, oh, finally a breath of fresh air. We're going to move away from the sister stuff and just focus on these two as a couple. So then when Jeremiah showed up, and when Fatima's friends, especially Belinda, had it out for Zach, that's when fans were like, oh man, are we really going to do this again? But I've said this since season 2 came to a close. Season 1 was a great intro to the series as a whole. But then season 2, that first half of the season, a lot of fans were like, oh, it's kind of slow. But then the back half of season 2 just knocked it out of the ballpark. And when you look at the entire season as a whole, the first 10 episodes did a great job establishing characters from season 1, introducing new characters, and setting up the greatness that was season 2B. So for the fans who, just feel like there's way too many obstacles, I feel like there's a difference between obstacles from other love interests, which seems a bit played out, versus obstacles from family members because of the fact that those family members are able to add more depth to the characters. So for as many people who want a happy-go-lucky Zatima relationship, I think they also need to remember that through their obstacles, they're able to build more character. And in some ways, the characters around Zach and Fatima are sometimes, in some ways, more important than them, because you need those characters to add more fuel to the fire. And I think overall, the character of Jeremiah, of Gladys, of Mona, Fatima's mom, and for me, one of my favorites from season 2, Fatima's stepdad, Henry, they definitely did a great job adding more to this couple. So I think that if fans look at it from that perspective, they could definitely appreciate what Jeremiah had to bring to the table, what Gladys had to bring to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just, you're dealing with the vicissitudes of life, man. It's the ups and downs, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so I think possibly, right? Possibly, I don't know. Now that we're going into another season, Fatima is pregnant now. I mean, that can't, in my opinion, maybe there's a bundle of joy waiting at the end of that. I mean, because, a baby definitely smoothing things out, right? I think Zach has matured this season a whole lot. He was
Oh
been able
yeah,
to unearth a lot of his pain and anger, so he knows where that is coming from. And I don't know. I just see. I'm not the writer, right? I'm not TP at all, right? But it's got to be light at the end of the tunnel, because eventually the fans get what they want. Eventually the fans get what they want. And so you just be patient, and you continue to watch and continue to see the colors in this story, because it's all about, when you read a book, right? It's probably 100 pages, 200 pages, 300 pages, right? And so you have to read the entire book to get the story, right? You got to read the entire book.
yep.
And so, I mean, life is just not peaches and cream all the time. And I think people know that. People do know that, but it's just what's Zach and Fatima had, it's so special, man. I mean, I get stopped and people go off on me. Why you doing that to your brother Zach? And I mean, they love this guy and they love Fatima. And so it just, I mean, these two guys are going places, man. They're definitely going places in the TV world, no doubt about it. People love them. People love them.
I mean, I'm just going to say it. I would not be surprised if at some point Tyler Perry does either like a special or a movie. I feel like when it comes down to I remember saying this back in season one when Zach proposed. I said Tyler Perry is without a doubt when it comes to the eventual wedding, it's got to be huge. I'm talking either like a movie or a
Wow.
multi-episode special or something because Zach and
Yeah.
Fatima are that couple and they need it to be good. I mean, especially with all the crap they've dealt with from the start and that they're still dealing with. When it comes to that, I feel like that will be the ultimate reward, not just for Zach and Fatima, but for the fans who have given years of
Oh yeah.
anticipation, of
Yeah.
support to see just a wedding
Absolutely.
like that. Imagine like Jeremiah being there. Come on, and then I know the big debate is whether or not Karen would or should show up, but I think that as the shows go on, that goes for Sisters as well. We'll just learn to appreciate that moment when they're able to join together at the church or outside or wherever they decide to do it because the buildup is definitely been I mean what it's been going on since when was season 2 2021 20 something like that but it's been a few years but I think that
It's a movie, man.
when it came to the
It's definitely.
pregnancy
It's got to be a movie, man. That's got to be a movie. That's a big movie. That's a hit
I
movie.
mean yeah, that could rival like a Medea film in terms
Oh
of
yeah,
the
no doubt about
numbers
it.
it would get. Like, I have no doubt about that. And imagine, because I remember in one interview, DeVal stated how he would love to be in a Medea movie because it's kind of like the shelf life. It's like once you do a Medea movie, you're like known forever because
Oh yeah,
some of those
yeah,
Tyler Perry plays and the movies from way back when. I remember the days like um, the bootleg. You would go to a barber shop or you go to, let's say, a church member's house and they would have a Tyler Perry movie or play on the television because they bought the DVD from some guy in the parking lot. But then I remember my mom, her first DVD, if I'm not mistaken, I remember she got it at Walmart. It was the Medea Family Reunion play. And then from there, she started collecting them. And I mean, I forgot the years, but I'm talking like what, 20, mid 2000s. And yet here we
yeah,
are over 20 years or almost 20 years later. And we still love going back to some of those special projects. But the longevity of a Tyler Perry movie based on Zatima, I just feel like that just won't go away, especially if he releases it on a platform like a Netflix or something, because it just seems that he has the Midas touch when it comes to. I forgot the exact numbers, but I remember the Medea Homecoming just being a huge thing. But with Sisters, and especially Zatima, I have no doubt that a Zatima film celebrating Zach and Fatima's wedding would just blow the roof off everything.
yeah. It would be colossal, man. It would definitely be. So hopefully, hopefully we get that. Hopefully the fans get that. I just think that these are two amazing people. The chemistry that they have together is it's like none other. I mean, it's like a Martin or Gina, right? And so, I mean, I don't want. I hate comparing, right? Uh, I just want to put them in their own box, right? Because I don't want to put people in boxes, right? Because I think DeVal and Crystal has something special. And so I don't want to say, okay, you follow behind Martin and Gina. You have your own. I give them their own space. I give them their own space. They deserve that. The chemistry that they have, again, it's like none other. And so this is a new generation. Martin was back then. This is now. And so it's something new. It's something brand new. And new is New is always good. It's always good. Something new is always good.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that when it comes to me, I think Martin and Gina, not just in terms of, okay, it's a black couple. No, no, no. I remember growing up, Martin and Gina were like that, the it couple people would talk about. It was Martin and Gina, it was Will and Jada. And nowadays, in terms of kind of like comparing in terms of the fanfare, it's like, wow, I don't think I've seen a couple with this much fanfare since Martin and Gina in terms of like black television. But I think
Yeah,
that the flair that these two bring to the table definitely enhances their just the way fans react to them because I think and again not to compare but I think if I'm not mistaken Martin started with Martin and Gina already a couple. But when it
yeah,
came to
yeah,
Sisters, it felt like a happy accident because these two, if I remember correctly, they never met face to face until season two when Fatima hit Zach on his bike when she was in her car. So from there, you could definitely see the differences of the couples in terms of their origin story. But yeah, to think that in just so little time, Zach and Fatima blew up the way they did. And also for anybody listening, when we talked about the movie, you know, I just thought of that idea. So hopefully your boy can get a cameo in the crowd at the wedding. That would be pretty cool. But I digress. I, just putting that out there. But I think Zach and Fatima, they offer something a bit different. It's the fact that, and I remember saying this, like people didn't like when I said it, but when Michael was introduced in terms of Zach having a son with Heather from the strip club, I said I actually am not against that because too many times in what television, film, books and whatnot, whenever a character with a shady or disreputable past decides to change their ways, they usually get off no penalties. It's like, oh, you're good now, that's good. But I think what Tyler did, which added that extra layer of realistic elements to Zach, was make it where, okay, it's good that Zach has decided he wants to do better for himself. He's walked away from Karen. I mean, well, technically, she dumped him first, even though she doesn't seem to want to admit that or remember that. But basically, he's opted to enhance his lifestyle by taking the first step in the right direction. From there, Fatima was able to help build him up and he worked hard. He got that stock tip and he started winning financially. He got that new pep in his step. He was doing good. But the thing is, just because you decide to change your ways and decide to do better for yourself, that does not automatically erase what you did in the past. And the fact that Zach was just going around town and laying with almost every woman he can find,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
realistic that he would have a kid
It's
or
realistic.
kids we don't know about. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah,
but people
and so
just feel like,
that's
oh,
why
go
I
ahead.
don't. That's why I don't compare him to Martin. I think he has his own space, and rightfully so. Martin had no kids. He has kids. Martin was not a horse type of guy. He was. So he has his own space. He has his own layers, right? So, as an actor, right, I don't mimic myself after anyone, right? Because I am a mirror, right? So, I mean, you can look at something, we all steal, right? Everybody steals in acting. We steal, we watch and we steal, right? And so just like a football player, a basketball player, Kobe stole from Michael Jordan, right? Used to stick his tongue out. Jordan was the only one that stuck his tongue out. But Kobe started sticking his tongue out. However, Kobe was a different player than Mike. Kobe had his own set of rules and standards than Mike. And so even though he stole a couple things from Mike, but he had his own place. So, and to compare the two, you can't compare the two. I think Kobe earned who he was. I mean, you can't, people say, well, Mike was better than Kobe. Kobe was better than Mike. I don't get into that. What I get into is that Kobe was able to make a pathway for himself. And so when I look at that character, Zach, I look at him as he has created a total different pathway from anybody else on television. He and Fatima, and I just leave it at that. You know, they're a very special couple.
Yes, they are. And I think that when it comes down to it, maybe 5, 10, 15 years from now, people can look back and just appreciate the realistic aspects of their relationship because, again, just like Martin and Gina, no kids and whatnot, those two had a great on-screen chemistry. But
Oh,
for the
absolutely.
most part, it was from like a more comedic aspect. But when it comes to Zach and Fatima, of course,
Yeah.
there's some comedic element to it, but it's the relatability that really makes them stand out. And I think something that I don't really think is that focused on as much as personally I would like is the fact that Fatima is career woman in some ways, like she wants to become a lawyer. It's like, she's doing like her job slash like internship at the law firm, but she has her own aspirations of, going to law school, getting a degree and becoming a
Right.
lawyer in her own right. And I wonder how that pregnancy is going to influence that moving forward. But I will say, when you talked about being your own actor and looking at other actors, but also learning from them, taking certain things, but then making it your own. I wanted to move into the conversation of getting the role of Jeremiah and your experience filming at Tyler Perry Studios. Could you give the fans some insights to that? Like, what was it like working with Tyler Perry as well as your other cast members?
Uh, I think, working, TP is from New Orleans. I'm from New Orleans. And it's always been my desire to work with him because, I mean, I admire any man who came from the bottom of life in this business to where he is. I truly admire that. I mean, and if you can make it in New Orleans, you can make it anywhere. This is a very tough town. And so, and getting this opportunity to have this character, man, you see, it's all about, there, as an actor, I've done a lot of roles, but it's about great writing. It's about getting the right character, right? The right character can torpedo your career, right? Just having the right character. This was that character for me. This was a character that I had layers and layers of stuff to deal with. I mean, I was able to dive into this guy. I was able to hit all the small nuances of this character, man. And there's so much more to exploit this character. So I was thrilled to get this character because I'm like, this is it. This is it. I've been waiting on a role like this, right? Because you can be in the show whether you play a police officer, you can play an army guy, and you're just playing that role. But you need layers, man. You need to go deep into the character, who this person is. You just seen this army guy on the surface, but when you get a character, man, and he has depth, oh my God, I was just enthralled. I was enthralled by this, man, and it was almost as if Tyler somehow read my mind. It's somehow like he knew when casting me, he knew me. Uh, my character Jeremiah is so relatable to me because my dad and I sold drugs together, and when I discovered this and getting the script, I'm like, hold on, man, how does this guy know? Does this guy know me? But it was divine intervention, man. So I'm like, I'm about to destroy this character. I know everything about this guy. I know him. I know him. That guy lives inside of me, right? And so working with TP, we didn't interact that much because I'm the type of guy that guy paid me to come there and do a job. He didn't pay me to do anything else but come there and bring Jeremiah to life. And that's an understanding that I have on every show that I go on. Or every movie that I've done. I am there to do a job. And so, you know, meeting the whole cast, cool people. Everybody in the studio, really, really cool people. I was just shocked. I've never saw this many black people in my life on the studio line. And I've been on Warner Brothers. I've been Lions. I've been in every studio you can imagine. And so I had an appreciation for that. I had an appreciation that this man built a real studio. This is a real studio. This is not a gimmick. This is real. When you go in this compound, it's real. And so knowing who Jeremiah was, knowing that sometimes in life you get one shot. You get one shot to prove who you are. And I distanced myself from DeVal. I distanced myself from Crystal. I would see them in the morning. Hey guys, how you guys doing? Good to see you, Crystal, blah, blah, blah. But that was it. I did not interact with them at all. Nobody, none of the cast members. It was only speaking to them, and that's it. Because as an actor, it is so important that you maintain who you are. Because you cannot get into folly, frivolous conversations, because Jeremiah is just not a regular guy. Jeremiah despises these people. And
That's
so
right.
in order to do that, what I did was I created disdain for them. I found things that that I didn't like about them. That I created this illusion, right? That's method acting. And so I didn't like them. And so every word that I said, I was pulling from a place. This dude was a cruel guy, man. This guy was traumatized. He was alienated, ostracized
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
in life. Jeremiah was incarcerated for 10 years. So he had a lot of pressure on him, drug addicted. And so I had to prove myself. You know, I was working with Kathy Bates on American Horror Stories for 6 weeks. I worked with her, Jessica Lange, uh, uh, Angela Bassett, Gabby Sidive. I work with Academy Award winners, right? Angela just got an Academy Award. Jessica has 2. Kathy Bates has 1. And I worked side by side with Kathy Bates. She and I were in a lot of scenes. I saw Kathy Bates come on set, and she played a character called Laurie Laveau. And it was a true character. She was an evil ass white woman that lived right off of Bourbon Street, and she had slaves in her house. And her husband was a surgeon, and she did cruel things to these black people. And so I saw that woman come on the soundstage, did not speak to anybody. She went into a private room before she was called to the soundstage, and she sat there alone. And when she came out of that room, she was the devil. That woman was so evil. I said, oh my God. And so afterwards we would talk, and she would tell me, Ameer, you have to be that focused as an actor. You have to be. Your job is to bring that character to life. And I never forgot that. That was in 2013. I never forgot that. And so that's part of my training. Listening to Angela Bassett, seeing her and seeing how she moved and how she responded. I mean, I was able to pull from all these people this great training, man, and say, you know what? I have to incorporate this. These people take this serious. This is their life. This is not a game. This is serious. So I was that serious. And so, you know, I'm looking to go back this season, depending on if I go back on the 3rd season. And I want to talk to Crystal and DeVal, because, you know, we had no conversation. We had very little dialogue. We had very little dialogue because I had to keep it that way, because I despise you right now, Zach. I don't like you, Fatima, because My brother is taking care of you, and he's not taking care of my mama, or he's not taking care of me. He got you living in $1 million house. He's got a Porsche outside. We don't have anything. I'm pissed. I'm mad. I'm frustrated. I'm irate. And I'm going to let anybody that get in my way have it. And so that's what I had to bring. And I think the fans enjoyed that from what I hear. I think Tyler Perry enjoyed that. I think Fatima and Zach enjoyed it, and the rest of the cast enjoyed it, because that's what actors do. Good actors just do that. And the last thing I want to say before you move on, the guy who, the movie with Will Smith, 12 Years of Slavery, right? The white
Yeah.
guy who was hunting him down, the guy said something. He said that he didn't even speak to Will Smith on set. He spoke to Will Smith at the rap party because he's a method actor. He hated Will Smith. He wanted to track him down like a dog and kill him. And so this is how deep this stuff is, man. Acting is not surface, man. It's deep. It is profound. It's spiritual, man. You go off into things, man, and you got to be very careful with acting, because, it's spirits, man. It's spiritual. You go off into these dimensions, man, and you it's hard to come out when you've studied the craft and when you take the craft serious. So I just wanted to make this show, whatever I could do to make this show good. I just wanted to make sure that DeVal and Crystal and Tyler and the rest of the cast was pleased at my work.
I think that it was definitely a heck of a job, because I remember talking about in my season 2 overview and a couple of posts I did online about some of the standout performances. And I said, I remember mentioning how, okay, I think DeVal was like the MVP, because we just got to see such a range of emotions from him, especially, episode 2, I believe, when he was crying after Gladys had left him in the store. And then as the episodes went on, we saw a bit more friction between him and Fatima, because the interaction with Jeremiah and his mom at the beginning of the season impacted how he acted, especially towards Fatima, for the duration of season 2. But when we got to season 2B, it felt like each and every week, DeVal was bringing a scene that was the talk of the fan base week to week to week. But then when I looked at the comments on the video and the post, people were just talking nonstop about Jeremiah being the standout for them when it came to the character who, in only a short amount of time, went from that character you love to loathe, you love to hate, because he presented such an obstacle, not just to Zatima, but to Zach whenever he showed up. But the fact that we saw such range from his character, from a character who he hated, but as the season went on, we came to understand a bit more. And the scene I think most people talk about when referring to Jeremiah was in the finale, when Fatima went back to the hospital to have that conversation about taking Gladys off of life support. And I was going to lead into my next question, if there were any particular scenes or one scene you felt stood out with Jeremiah during season 2 that you wanted to highlight.
I tell you, man, that scene, I talked to DeVal about it. That was my favorite scene with Fatima. She and I, we had, we were butt heads here and there, but that scene right there, that was the scene, even though it was a subtle scene, but I was just, man, I was just listening. Great actors listen, and the responses,
Yeah.
everything. That was my best scene. The scene with her was my best scene. I think, I gave her something to feed off of. See, good actors give other actors food to feed off of, right? They bring the best out of them. And so in that performance, I felt, I felt everything that she gave me. It was a great scene. It was a great scene. And so That was the best scene, in my opinion, to me. That I love that scene. I love how she came across to me. It was just it was really it was a lot of chemistry there, man. And to see this character go from to be broken down, right, to be dismantled to this boy, right, because beyond every bully there's a boy, there, right, and so she was able to get to that guy, and so and not so quickly, not so rather quickly. There was moments where I had to ponder on what she was saying. I gave it thought. If you go back and look at it again, there was moments where you're thinking about what she's saying. It's making sense, but it's not quite me. I'm not all in yet, but she still has to convince me more. And so that's what I love about this craft, man. It's about listening and using your emotional senses, man, to go with your emotions. Because if I told you something right now about you that was true, it's going to touch you in a way. You're going to respond in a different way. And so I think she did a phenomenal job uh, with that. And that was the scene I told DeVal I can't wait to see. And so Crystal nailed that. She did. She nailed that. So,
She
kudos to
really did,
Crystal.
and something definitely, because if I look at the show for seasons 1 and 2, I think this was the first time that someone spoke to Jeremiah on a level of understanding. There wasn't any animosity. It was a sense of relatability. It wasn't about, you know, using big words or medical terminology or,
Yeah.
going at him about his drug habits and whatnot. No, it was, hey, I understand you're hurting right now. I'm not going to tell you what you need to do, but I'm just going to keep it real. And I think that's another it almost makes me want to go back and do a video just breaking down that scene, because despite being short, subtle, sometimes it's like they say simplicity works best. There was an honesty in Crystal's performance. The fact that she sat down, or Fatima sat down with Jeremiah and just wanted to kind of get through to him, because it was clear that nothing was going to make him realize the situation for what it really was. And I think that fans really loved that scene, because up until that point, it was like Jeremiah and Fatima on site. It was like Tom and Jerry on site. It was going to be some, bad blood between them. But the highlight, well, actually, there was two moments when when Jeremiah apologized for calling Fatima out of her name and then asked for a hug. That's when fans really began to warm up to the character.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing is that, uh, uh, as my dad used to say, the ways of a woman is unknown. Women have power. Women have a lot of power, man. And women can be very convincing if they remained focused and never getting irate. Because what happens is if a woman says something to me and it's the right thing, but she says it in a vulgar way or in a strong way, I won't receive it. But if she says it in a meek and mild way, right, it breaks you down. Like, the Bible said, a kind word turns away wrath, right? And so she was able to turn my wrath away because she remained poised. She remained poised. She knew the issues that her boyfriend and I were going through. She knew the backdrop of the story of the mother, the two different fathers, etc. She was completely aware of that, and so she had the bandwidth to understand me as a human being, even though I was a heroin addict, even though I had antisocial values, just messed up. She was able to do that, and so I think that was, it was a great moment. That was a great moment. The scene in the hospital when the situation where I was telling them, you're not gonna kill my mother, right? I used my child who I had lost, right? I lost a kid. I used that, and it's like, no, it's not going to happen. That I pulled from that, and that came across so strong because I saw my mom as my child that I had lost. That pain, I used that pain and that emotion to pull from the loss of the death of my child. And so it's a beautiful, it's beautiful. The writing just was for me. It was for me, man. The writing was just for me. I am so grateful that I had the opportunity to display these different levels of emotion. And, but there's so much more to Jeremiah. I think it was you that post Jeremiah is got himself together and he's taking pictures with Senator Elizabeth Warren. I thought that was hilarious, but it's so much more to this guy, right? He's just not who people see him as. There's redemption in him, and I'm hoping I get the opportunity to for the writers to to see that this guy is just not an addict and he's just not a nobody. There's something great inside of Jeremiah. So I would like to also express that, and so to give the fans a different dimension of what's possible in a guy if you give him the opportunity to redeem himself.
Exactly. And that was going to lead into my next question in regards to the potential future of Jeremiah in the show moving forward. Because, despite the fact that Gladys unfortunately died, Jeremiah is still alive. And I think one of my favorite moments, because I talked about this in my finale review, was the fact that, despite their mom being gone, Jeremiah has decided to take his own path for the time being. Zach extended out that olive branch in terms of offering to get him the help that he needs, and the fact that you shouldn't just uproot and leave town because you feel like you're alone and nobody loves you. It's like, look, I'm here for you, but he decides to take care of things the way that he knows how. And that was another standout scene when Zach Fatima got to the hospital room after his mom died, and we had that sobriety, even to the point where Zach was telling Fatima, "Was like, yeah, you see, he's like a completely different person when he's sober." Because at that moment, Jeremiah said, you got a good woman right there, hold on to her. And that, I feel like, is a follow up scene from when he apologized for calling her out of her name. But we did learn in that moment that Jeremiah has kids, but he's like, you know what, they hate me and whatnot, so I'm just going to leave. But I think that when Zach went over to the house later that day to get the videotapes and whatnot, he did mention that Jeremiah was high once again, showing that some habits, didn't just, you know, disappear because his mom was gone. But when it comes to, let's say, Zatima season 3 or 4 or 5, or however long the show goes, when it comes to future seasons, if Jeremiah were to come back, how would you write it? Like, what role would you want him to play? Would you want him to come back completely clean, or do you want to see more of a kind of a journey for his character?
Well, it has to be a journey, right? Because you know, dealing with a heroin addiction, it's a very difficult addiction to deal with. I grew up in the Callio housing projects, and a lot of my partners, got on heroin, and so I understand that there's some ups and downs, and there's some moments that, hey, some of these guys that went clean for 6 months and got back on dope. Some guys, they went 2 years and got back on dope. Some guys got clean and moved forward and now raising their families, right? And so it just depends on what TP wants. I mean, this is his baby, and so I can, I'm willing to go any direction if afforded the opportunity. However, uh, having a wife and 2 kids, I'm always a huge proponent of a man going back to raising his family, man. And my dad left uh, my mom with three children. He was a heroin addict, and so he came back. He left us when I was 9, or when I was 3. He came back when I was 19. So he was very derelict in his duty, right? Because he was strung out on heroin and he just didn't want to face the reality as a man to say, you know what, listen, I have a family. I got to raise my children. I got to beat this because it can be beaten. And so I would not want to see me live like my dad lived, because when your children grow up without you, man, it's, the likelihood of a black boys or black girls growing up without a father in a disruptive community. You're talking about early parenting from the girl perspective, the boy getting in trouble with the law. So if I had my way, I would like to be able to go back into my household and raise my kid with my brother insight, and also Fatima, who seems to be a very balanced woman, and she can put some input on that. So that's what I would like to see, because I never want to see a man neglect his children and his wife. I don't want to see that. But that's a harsh reality. It happens. But being who I am as Ameer Baraka, I've been mentoring kids for years, and I'm totally against any man walking away from his family under any circumstances. So we'll see. We'll have to see what how this goes. I'm hoping that it goes the way I would like for it to go, but sometimes it doesn't. And so that's we'll see what TP has to say about that, and the rest of the people who are part of the crew of making season 3.
And I like that you mentioned that because it made me think about Zach as a character. From him having a 3-year-old son he never knew about, him growing up without his dad, I always wondered, I mean, what kind of impact. I'm sure we'll see more of that as we go into Sistas season 6B and then season 7 and maybe even Zatima season 3. The impact of, wow, here's this young boy I knew nothing about, and he feels like a sense of responsibility. And that's one thing I did like about Zach during the first part of Sister Season 6, that there were no jokes. It's like he was dead serious about, you know, readjusting his life accordingly in order to make, room for his son, especially when he went over to that apartment and saw how he was living with Heather. 3 years of, neglect.
Yeah,
I believe like the correct phrasing would be a lack of developmental skills. So, the fact that, oh, I think he's kind of slow because he doesn't talk and he's not potty trained.
yeah,
No, it's the fact that you as a mother hasn't given him enough time,
neglected,
attention, and whatnot. Exactly, to help him learn those motor skills and whatnot. So as a result, you
right?
have, this young boy who desperately needs the care and attention and affection to become a, not just a productive member of society, but to live the life of a young kid. And it just hurts you when you go back to that scene when Zach, you could, and that's DeVal, like being able to telegraph such emotion with just his face. The look on his face, especially eyes, when he looked down at his son on the floor, it just, at that point, I knew Zach was born as a result of that. So thinking about Fatima's pregnancy, one could argue, and I'm not trying to like say like he'll love one kid more than another. I think that he will pour so much love into this baby that he has with Fatima because of the fact that he wasn't there when Michael was born. And I don't want to count the Karen kid because that's still up in the air, the whole DNA stuff. But regardless, I feel like the child he has with Fatima, that's going to be just the child that will get the most of Zach in their entire lives, because hopefully he'll be there from the pregnancy to the birth, and then of course when that child is growing up. And I think to round things out before we do like a mini Q&A session is, when it comes to other Tyler Perry projects, because that's something, other actors have stated in their time working at the studio. Typically, they might have had a small role, but they came in there and they did it. They left nothing. They left it all on the court. They went in there, they murdered the role, and then in some situations, Tyler would look at that actor and say, you know what, I like what you did there, or I feel like there's something more I can do with you. And these characters who were supposed to make one-off appearances end up getting like reoccurring roles or show up for a couple of seasons or pop up in other shows, sometimes a movie and whatnot. When it comes to Jeremiah, and you look at what you brought to the table with him, are there any other, let's say, current Tyler Perry shows that you would like to appear in?
Uh, I like I like any other show that I would like to appear in.
Yeah, it
I
doesn't
mean,
have to be Jeremiah, like, a new character altogether.
okay, yeah. I mean, I think I like the oval, right? I want to do something that's totally opposite of Jeremiah, right? I want to do something that's totally opposite of him, right? Maybe he's a guy in a suit, and to show that to show range in that way, or just a different character. Of course, I mean, you can't go wrong with Tyler Perry shows. I mean, they're highly watched. They're great shows. Um, the one that he has with All the Queen's Men, I like that show. I mean, I like that show. It's a great show. I would like to do something with the lead actress. What's her name? Her name escapes me right now. She's
Eva
she's the
Marcel.
lead. Yeah, Eva. Yeah, Eva. And so I would like to do something with her. She's a strong actress, man. Very strong actress. Has a lot of external issues going on, personal issues going on in her life, and so she's pulling from a lot of different places. Would love to do something with her. Oh my God, you know,
Oh
I
yeah,
just want,
her and DeVal
I
had a
want
Christmas.
to, yeah, yeah. I just want to work with some talented people, man. I want to work with like talented people, right? That's what I want to do. I want to work with talented people, you know. And so working with her would be special. Would definitely be special. And so that's something that I would like if I get the opportunity. But again, I mean, it's I got things happening, man, and whatever they want, whatever they want, man. It's. But I would like that. I would definitely like that. You know, I would
Just
like
throwing it
also,
out
I would
there.
like to, yeah, I would like also, Charles Dutton did a show, The Rock. I don't know if you guys familiar with that. I would like to go and raise my family in the hood and navigate my family while while in the hood, right? And navigate my little boy, my little girl, and help them get through the obstacles and the pitfalls of life with all the experiences that I have. That's a whole nother show. But I just The Rock was a very strong character, man. He was a janitor, man, but he loved kids in the community, man, and he had morals and he had values. And I would like to see Jeremiah uh, 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 rise to that type of level of respect in his community because he has so much that he can offer young boys and young girls because of his experience. And so that's something that I would like to see as well. That's something I have that written down. Of course, I produced a couple of projects myself, and so these are things that I see uh, that's important because I think what we need another thing that we need in the black community, we need to see a family in the black community, not like the Huxtables, Bill Cosby, but on a lower level. And how do they navigate, right? How do a black man raise his son? He's a janitor or he has a meager job, but he's raising his son. And he's talking to his kid about avoiding the traps and the pitfalls of selling drugs. And his son wants the new Jordans. He can't afford them, right? Because he's paying the bills. He's about getting his kids educated. But how do you talk to your kids about delayed gratification? How do you talk to your young girls about sex when every other young girl is having sex, right? And so it's going to take two great parents to do that. And so I would like to. It's a show that's needed. That show is needed, man, because when you look on TV and you see what's going on in these communities, you said, "Oh my God!" So our kids need to see models, man. We need to see models on TV. We need people that we can live vicariously through and find hope and inspiration through. And that's what I'm all about.
Yeah, because I'm just sitting here trying to think of, when was the last time I saw a show with, a leading black family that was kind of like the traditional household of two parents under the same roof, mom and dad raising their kids. I mean, Everybody Hates Chris is like the last one that comes to mind. But yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. I mean, those kind of family models, structures are rare nowadays. And
yeah.
also, just a side tangent here, you talked about wanting to work with Eva Marcel. Considering that Madam is Fatima's cousin, and as of right now, Zach has yet to meet her, it's possible that at some point you two will be on screen together. Hey, we already talked about that that Zatima wedding, and both families are hopefully going to show up. So, hey, you never know. You two might share a
You
scene
never
together.
know. You never know, man. You never know. Uh, what Tyler is going to do. You never know. He always shock you, and so that would be nice. That would be nice. That would be nice. But it
Yeah.
feels good to be a part of these two seasons, working with this cast, this group of talented people. Everybody is. The thing is that everybody brings something to the table. Everybody. I mean, it's just like, wow, the whole cast is talented. Everybody brought something to the table. I was very impressed. I mean, he picked a hell of a cast, man. Everybody.
He did. He really did.
Yeah, he picked.
And
Yeah, he picked a hell of a cast.
I think that as the show goes on, we can see more of these characters. And I think I appreciated that about season two, where we got to see a bit more of the friends, Nathan and Tony and Belinda. But I feel like we can dive deep into their lives even more as well. Like, for example, Nathan, his wife Lori kicked him out, but he has two kids as well. We know that he's staying on Tony's couch, and he's been messing around with Belinda. But I'd like to see, him kind of reconnect with his wife and hopefully get things together with his family. So yeah, I feel like it just goes back to what I said earlier about how Zatima as a couple is great, but we can also learn more about the surrounding cast, their friends, their family. And sometimes, maybe because Zach and Fatima don't have a perfect love, the other characters are beginning to understand that, despite how I feel about Zach being with Fatima or Fatima being with Zach, these two bring something out in the other that we haven't seen before. So, despite their hardships, perhaps we can see these two as a couple have a positive impact on those around them, and that's a different angle that
Absolutely.
hopefully the show explores later down the line. But um, before we kind of wrap up here, I just wanted to see if you had any, because I know with the writer strike and everything, hopefully wrapping up soon. Are there any other projects you wanted to kind of, plug in right now? Because I do recall you actually have a book.
Yeah, I have a book out titled "Undiagnosed: The Ugly Side of Dyslexia," and I have another book titled uh, "The Life I Chose: The Streets Lied to Me." And so I've written two books. Spoke before the United States Senate on dyslexia. So I'm pretty big in the dyslexia world. The projects that I have, I got two other projects that's coming out. Uh, One with Paula Patton. We shot the second season. We're waiting on that to be released, and we go back after the strike to do the third season. And the new show I got coming out will be titled Jupiter, and that's 8 episodes. So we're just waiting on the strike to end and to get those shows on the road. And so I'm working. I'm grateful to be working. I got another movie that I got coming out, but we're just waiting on this strike thing to end. And so, this is going to be a great year for me. God willingly, I'll be able to be working on three shows if I'm granted to come back on this show. But I'm working, man, and it's just I just keep working. That's all I do is I just keep working. I treat every project like it's my first one, and I'm just on to the next one, on to the next one. So, you're out of, you have no control of these things, right? You have no control at all. The only thing you do is You go to work and you do great work, and that's all you can do, and on to the next one. And so, you know, it would be nice. Again, it would be nice to work with Crystal, DeVal, and the rest of the cast. Just a wonderful cast, and so that there's some hope that's there. I haven't heard anything yet because we're in a terrible situation right now with this strike stuff. But that looked like it's going to be resolved rather quickly, and because they took care of the writers, and so by next week this can very well be resolved. But I'll keep you guys posted on everything. The
Yeah,
Val has been, we've been talking backwards and forward. We got a relationship going. Some things that he told me that he likes, that he would like to happen between he and I on the show. And so let's see what happens.
yeah, and I hope that we definitely get to see some of these things on screen in future episodes. But if we have enough time, do you want to take about, let's say, 2 or 3 questions from the listeners?
Yes, absolutely. That's what it's all about. It's all about them.
Okay, so if you have a question for Amir, would you please put in a request to be added to this discussion here? And it will be a first come, first serve. So I'm looking at the audience right now. Oh, I see a request. I believe this is Dominique, and I'm adding you right now. Dominique Moore.
Hey, Dominique, how are you, sister?
I'm good. I'm good. I just want to know how was it filming the scene between you, Jack, and Fatima when your mother passed on the show?
Oh, in the hospital scene.
Yes.
Uh, it was a great scene. I came to the realization that my mom was gone. I came to the realization that, listen, man, I can no longer continue to fight against my brother. Uh, you know, and I that was a good moment. That was a good moment. That was a goodbye moment, a tough moment. But it brought a lot of resolve. And so, I came to the realization that, hey, you know what? We're family now. These people are my family. My brother and this girl, that they're my family. And so, in the back of my mind, in the dialogue, it's like, I got to go. But I know now, hey, you know what? This is my family, man. My brother's my family. He's all I really, really have outside of my wife and my 2 kids. So it was a great moment. It was a great moment.
And how was it filming the scene with Fatima when you guys was talking about taking your mom off for life support?
Yeah, well, as I said, that was one of my favorite scenes right there because she was trying to convince me, and I thought my brother had told her to come in to convince me, but she was genuinely concerned about my mom and my well-being as well. And so that was a great scene from her. She did a fantastic job. I felt the sincerity in her line in the lines, and so kudos to her. I think I'm just seeing her evolve more and more as I watch Sisters and Fatima. So she is definitely coming into her own, and I got a lot of respect for her.
All right, thank you so much. This is my first time speaking on a panel. I always listen to different panels that comes on Twitter. So thank y'all so much for letting me talk.
Well, I appreciate you talking, and always talk. You have a lot to say, and so I appreciate your viewpoint.
And tell
All
everybody
right.
if
Well,
you get a chance, tell everybody to keep your head up and keep the show going.
I will. I will. Thank you.
all right. Thank you, Dominique. Let's see here. We got another request. Just let's see. Um, Danielle Smith. Okay.
Hey everybody, hi Amir.
Hey, Danielle.
How are you?
I'm exceptionally
I
well.
just wanted to get on here and just give you your accolades because you really showed out. You know how they say that if the actor doesn't piss you off, they didn't do their job. You did your
Right, right,
job.
right.
You did your job. And
Thank
and I really wanted to go back to the hospital scene because how you said how you had to pull from the pain from your child. Watching you do that scene reminded me of when I had to sign the paper to have my mom removed off of life support. So I felt every bit of that. I felt all that you were going through. And then when you were sitting with Fatima and Fatima was talking to you and you looked up at her and you said, I'm not a bad guy. I felt that. I said, oh my God. And many times we take a character and we think they are bad, but there is always something soft beneath the hard shell. So I appreciate you for giving me that because I found a newfound respect for you
wow.
through those things. So I would say, and it's funny, you know how you say that person is in you. It's funny because I see that person in my brothers, and all that. So just watching you just portray Jeremiah was just exceptional, and I just wanted to give you accolades for that.
Thank you so many times. I truly appreciate that.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
sister.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, let's see. Well, thank you, Danielle, for those comments there. And yeah, it's just great to see that the fans truly appreciated those hospital scenes because they really showcased the depth of the character and the acting there. But I do believe those were the requests, and we got to all of them. And I do appreciate everybody who listened so far. But Amir, just again, thank you so much for coming out to speak with me about your experiences, your life, your acting careers, Zatima, and what's coming out the pipeline post writer strike. But any closing thoughts before we wrap up here tonight?
Hey man, I just want to thank the fans, thank the people for watching the show. You guys, it's the fans, man. It's the people who watch you uh, that keeps this show going, right? And so what I've learned is you always remain humble. You always take time out for people. Uh, because it's the people, man. It's the people. God has placed us in unique situations, man. And the thing is that we ought to never think so highly of ourselves that we can't never spend time with people. We shun people, and so I just have a value for people. You just value people, man, and that's who Ameer Baraka is, a person who values people. And so, if you guys get leisure time, Google that name, see my work. I've been doing work for a very long time. Been working with youth in and out of prisons for years. So I've been doing a lot of work, and so you put a lot of work in, but now it's harvest time for me. It's harvest time. I've sowed and sowed and sowed and watered, and now it's harvest time. And it feels good when people tell you, "Hey, man, listen, man, man, you brought that, man, you did that," because we need that as human beings. We all need a skosh of that every now and then, right? To say, somebody appreciate my work. We all want to feel appreciated, whatever we're doing. If we're a garbage man, I got people pick up my garbage at my house. I say, man, thank you so much. I value you guys, right? Because people discard people because, oh, that's just a garbage man. But that person is a human being. That person has a life. That person has a wife, a kid. And so that's just who I am. And so I'm thankful to God that my time is now, and that people are finally appreciating my work. I'm grateful to Tyler Perry for allowing me the opportunity to cast me in this, because it's thousands of hundreds of people trying to get one job. It's hundreds of people trying to get one job, and so to, I'm thankful for that they saw the talent and the audition they saw, and they went with it, and I didn't disappoint. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the cast members, all the cast members, every last cast member, every last cast member. I'm thankful. It's good to work with these guys. I'm glad that they're in positions, you know. And so just kudos, man. And I'm just looking forward to the show doing 6, 7, 8, 9, even with me or without me. I just want the show to do well.
And if the fans keep showing up and breaking these streaming records like they're doing, there's no telling how long this show is going to go on. But again, just thank you so much for coming in tonight to talk with us about the show. And for everybody who's listening, please take a moment when you get a chance to follow Ameer on both. I know you have Twitter and Instagram. Are there any other social media platforms that you have where fans can follow you?
That's it, man. I'm on Instagram and Twitter, Ameer Baraka.
There you go. And if you came into the discussion a little late, or maybe you wanted to listen to it again, this Twitter space will be up on my account here. And I'm also going to have it placed my kind of interview within the next days, either over the weekend or sometime next week. So if you, for whatever reason, have not watched the Zatima seasons 1 and 2, both are available on BET Plus. I believe you can also stream it through Amazon as well. And hopefully we will see Jeremiah in future seasons. That's the Zatima movie. I'm calling it. They're going to get married in a big event. But if nothing else, everyone, thanks for tuning in. Have a great night, and hope everybody has a good weekend.